5 years ago, I was at a men's retreat, and this is where I had an opportunity to meet James, a 50-year-old man I immediately looked up to. James was successful. He had a wife that he loved and 2 daughters that he admired. He even had that full head of hair thing going on, which is kind of annoying, actually. I said, James, man, if I didn't like my life so much, I would want yours. What are you doing here at this men's retreat? The answer he gave me sent a chill down my spine. He said, Dominick, I'm here because I'm afraid that I'm incapable of experiencing joy. I shook my head and I said, James, how's that possible for the life that you've built with yourself? And he's like, Dominick, I don't know. Ever since I was a kid, I set goals and I crushed them. It's what I do. And life has been good to me. I have a wonderful family. I'm surrounded by beautiful things. But if I'm going to be honest, when I check in with myself on the inside, I don't feel much of anything at all. And that is starting to scare me. See, what I came to learn about James, like many men, is that he had built his entire life around external achievements. And he became a wonderful provider for his family. He became admired and respected by the communities that surrounded him. And he became increasingly numb to all of it on the inside. You don't think his wife feels that? You don't think his daughters feel that? And what I came to learn is that many men follow this journey. James, I wonder if you have a James like that in your life, a father, a friend, maybe a son. Maybe you're married to him. You see, this script plays out far too often, and I've seen too many of the consequences of this in the thousands of men that I've coached and worked with over the past decade. Men in their 20s are hungry to make something of themselves in this world. Men in their 30s start to reap some of the rewards of that hard work. Men in their 40s have many of those things that they work so hard to get, and they start to wonder why it doesn't feel better. And then men in their 50s start to experience that sensation that Henry David Thoreau calls living a life of quiet desperation. It has been said that the definition of hell is that on your last day on earth, the person that you became meets the person you could have become. I want to know how we short-circuit that trajectory. How do I make sure that James doesn't end up there, or the men in your life don't end up there either? See, there are so many of these pivotal moments that a man experiences on his way to becoming a man, like losing his virginity, or that first time eating an entire pizza by yourself. That's a big one for a lot of men. But there is a moment that's missing. And it's this missing moment that keeps accomplished men like James publicly decorated and privately confused. It's this missing moment that keeps good men feeling alone, isolated, disconnected, and increasingly unhappy. And do you know who feels the reverberating effects of that? Women do. That's why we need to create a new moment for men. A moment when a man turns his attention from those external conquests and takes his first step on the inner journey, fearlessly confronting the questions of, who am I? What do I want from this life? And what do I want to leave behind? This is the bold journey that women want us to take. And by the way, when I'm talking to men, I don't tell them any of that stuff. Because as soon as I say the words emotions, it's like a full system shutdown. Okay? A few years ago, I was running a workshop for a large investment company, and I had a chance to meet Carl. Carl was by far the #1 salesperson in that company, like hero-level status. And during one of the workshops, Carl raised his hand. He's waving this piece of paper. He's like, Dominick, you got to see this. He had this big grin on his face. So I race over, and I look at this piece of paper, and he had just gotten the results back on an emotional intelligence assessment that he'd just taken. And the thing that he was so delighted for me to see was that he had just scored a 0 on empathy. He thought this was hilarious, too. So I'm scratching my head, and I'm trying to figure out why he thinks this is so funny when finally a light bulb goes off for me. And I said, Carl, is the reason why, do you believe that a 0 on empathy is one of the reasons why you're so successful at navigating these high-stress sales situations? And he looks at me like I'm an idiot, and he goes, yeah, of course. And I said, I understand, but it kind of also might make you a sociopath. Too many men like Carl have been raised to believe that emotional stoicism is a strength. But how can I argue with Carl on that? Because in his worldview, the reason why he's #1 at what he does is because he's been better at suppressing his emotions than anyone else. And now being #1 is central to his identity of being a man. He's not going to allow anything in that could threaten that, like emotions. You see, too many men have been led to believe that emotions and showing emotionality is the enemy to competing and winning, because when a man is competing and winning, he is called driven, successful, and ambitious. So yes, of course, we want men to do the emotional work, but the current reward system favors the status quo. That's why this conversation is not for Carl. He's not interested in changing, at least not right now. This is a conversation for James, who has demonstrated an interest in looking for a new way. And for those of you who have a man in your life that you care about, and presumably a desire to influence to take that first step as well. But I got to tell you, your work is going to be cut out for you. Because even when a man has a desire to go internally, he still may face ridicule from other men. Guys, help me out with this one. Let's say it's Sunday afternoon. You're watching the games, drinking some beers, eating chicken wings, and you turn to your buddies and you tell them that you're going to go on a men's retreat next weekend. Do they, A, put the game on pause and sit down and ask probing, insightful questions with genuine curiosity? Or B, ask you if you need help packing your skirt and heels? These stigmas are outdated, but for too many men, they are far too real. So of course we want men to learn vulnerability and emotional fluency, but we can't advertise that on the cover of the box because not enough men will buy it. To paraphrase the brilliant author and therapist Esther Perel, masculinity does not seem to be this natural birthright that men are just given. We have to go out and earn it, and then vigilantly maintain it over the course of life's actions. In that respect, it's a lot like how trust functions. You can spend your entire life building trust and you can lose it in an instant because trust is fragile like that. And as it turns out, so is masculinity. Be a man, suck it up. Are you going to take that? These are all regular moments of reckoning that determine whether or not a man gets to keep his manhood. Hell, a man can temporarily lose his masculinity by not finishing his beer. So until that changes, the way that we create that missing moment, that essential entry point for a man to turn inward, is by creating a new reward system, a new set of payoffs that is clear, desirable, and in alignment with a man's current worldview. Here are 3 of those payoffs. Payoff number 1, a man who does inner work plays bigger games. Too many men are playing only the games they know they can win. Because a man who has not done the inner work, he buries his desires, he dilutes his dreams, he distracts himself in his work because he does not have the inner fortitude to go for what he wants. He doesn't even know what he wants. But the man who does inner work lives out over his edge constantly. Payoff number 2, women find a man who does inner work irresistible. You see, women have a sixth sense at sniffing out a man who's out of alignment because a man who's out of alignment is dangerous. And no matter how put together on the surface he may appear, deep down inside she knows she can never really trust him or feel safe around him. A man who's done that inner work is in alignment, and she can feel his intentionality, his purpose. He honors emotions. She can feel safe, seen, supported. That's irresistible. And payoff number 3, a man who does the inner work builds bigger futures for everyone around him. A man living the highest version of himself naturally calls others forward to do the same for themselves. And he creates environments where others can thrive, businesses, family members, and people he cares about. He leaves this world a better place than how he found it. These are payoffs worth fighting for, worth changing for, worth doing the work for. And all it takes is the desire to find that moment to take that first step inward. And that first step does not have to be something grandiose. It could be something as simple as reading a book like Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, which has changed my life many times over. It could be like going on a men's retreat, such as the Mankind Project, which has been around for decades and is available globally. I went on that retreat, and it changed my life. And it could be joining a men's group, which are popping up all over the United States. I've been a part of one for the past year. Every Monday night, I get together with 7 other men, and for 2 hours, we do the inner work. And without these men, I wouldn't be here on this stage. That's where I found my voice. One of the men in our group just closed a deal with Elon Musk. if you want to talk about playing bigger games. And the reason why those accomplishments are so sweet is because we've done the inner work and it's in alignment with who we want to be, what we want to make of this life, and what we want to leave behind. I would like to take a moment to speak specifically to the women. The responsibility for creating that missing moment to turn inward is not on your shoulders. It is on ours as men. And you have a remarkable ability to influence the men in your life. So if you feel called, I invite you to call the men forward to take that first step on the inner journey. Henry David Thoreau once said, "It is easier to sail many thousands of miles through cold and storm and cannibals than it is to explore the private sea, the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans of one's being alone." There are many moments along a man's inner journey that he must go at alone. But that first moment does not need to be one of them. Let's create that moment together. Thank you.